My family spent years excluding me, then got angry when I excluded them from my lottery winnings. I've always been the black sheep of my family, though I never really understood why. Growing up, I was constantly left out of family events, vacations, and celebrations. My parents would take my two sisters to Disney World while leaving me with our elderly neighbor. During holidays, they'd forget to get me presents while my sisters received piles of gifts. When family photos were taken, I was usually told to stay out of the frame or asked to be the photographer. I spent years trying to win their approval. I got good grades, participated in extracurricular activities, and even got a scholarship to college. Nothing seemed to matter. My sister's achievements were celebrated with parties and expensive gifts, while my accomplishments were met with indifferent nods. The pattern continued into adulthood. I wasn't invited to my sister Sarah's wedding because space was limited, yet they invited distant cousins I'd never even met. When my other sister Rachel had her baby shower, I only found out about it through Facebook photos afterwards. My parents' 30th anniversary celebration, I learned about it when my aunt accidentally mentioned it during a chance encounter at the grocery store. I eventually accepted that I would never be truly part of the family and focused on building my own life. I worked hard, made wonderful friends who became my chosen family, and found peace in accepting that some things just can't be fixed. Then, 3 months ago, something incredible happened. I won the lottery. Not just a few $1,000s, but $47 million after taxes. I kept it quiet at first, consulting with financial advisors and lawyers to ensure everything was properly managed. I bought a modest but beautiful house, set up investments for my future, and made some charitable donations to causes I care about. The news eventually got out when a local paper ran a story about the winner being from our area. My family, who hadn't contacted me in over 8 months at that point, suddenly started calling and texting nonstop. My mother left tearful voicemails about how much she missed me. My sister sent lengthy emails reminiscing about our wonderful childhood memories, which largely didn't exist. My father, who had barely spoken 10 words to me in the past 5 years, showed up at my workplace with a gift basket. The final straw came during a family dinner they insisted on having. They spent the entire evening talking about their financial struggles and dropping hints about needing help. Then my mother actually had the audacity to say, "Family takes care of family. That's what we've always done." I couldn't help but laugh. I asked them where this family spirit was when I spent holidays alone, when I wasn't invited to weddings, when I graduated college with honors and no one showed up. The room got very quiet. Then came the anger. They called me selfish, ungrateful, and told me I was twisting the past. My sister Sarah actually said I was being dramatic about being excluded from her wedding. My father insisted they had always treated me fairly and that I owed them for raising me. I stood up, thanked them for finally showing their true colors so clearly, and walked out. I blocked their numbers, instructed my lawyers to send cease and desist letters if they continued trying to contact me, and moved to my new house in a gated community. The revenge? Living my best life without them. I've started a scholarship fund for excluded and estranged children to help them pursue their dreams. I travel with my chosen family, support causes I believe in, and have found genuine happiness. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about finally breaking free and finding your own path to happiness. My family spent years teaching me that I wasn't worth including. Now they're learning that lesson themselves, and I couldn't be more at peace with that decision. Edit. Thank you for all the supportive comments and awards. To those asking, yes, I did help my elderly former neighbor who used to watch me. She now lives in a beautiful retirement community and never has to worry about medical bills again.
On to the next story. My late husband's family wants to reconnect with our kids despite his explicit wishes not to in the past, including an update at the end. My 28F husband John, 29M, died recently. It was shocking and really sudden. He was at work and suffered a brain aneurysm. We took him to the hospital, but it was too late. John and I have 2 twin boys aged 4. I am aware life is going to get significantly harder now, but I very much want to raise our boys the way John and I had planned. One part of said plan was John never, ever wanted our sons to have anything to do with his side of the family. John's dad cheated on his mom when he was 12 and left her for the mistress. The divorce was nothing short of mental torture for the poor woman who had been betrayed, blindsided, and then abandoned by her partner. She slipped into a depression, and instead of showing any compassion, his dad used her mental health to file for primary custody, which he later got. His mom was an orphan, and his dad's side of the family left her so she was without any emotional, financial, or physical support. John fought all the way to be with his mom, but he was only a kid. He was devastated when a few months after divorce and custody, she ended her life. John's relationship with his father completely broke down. He ran away, and after much fighting was sent to live with his aunt. But he left after turning 18, and since then has been very low contact with his aunt and no contact with the rest of his family. His dad has reached out over the years, especially after John and I married and welcomed our boys. John has refused every single one of them, barred them from our house, called the cops, threatened them with harassment charges and restraining orders. He made it very clear to them and me that our boys would never have anything to do with them. I've always respected his wishes. When John was in hospital, his dad and grandparents tried to visit, but even in his delirious state, John got angry upon seeing them and tried to get up and leave. This made me ban them from the hospital. I didn't tell them about John's passing either. I planned the funeral and paid for it. It was nothing fancy, but the service was beautiful and heartfelt. When his dad found out, he came to our house, shouting at me for not letting him see his son one last time. He was crying and screaming. I told him John made it clear that he didn't want him anywhere near, that it would have been disrespectful to ignore John's wishes. After more yelling and crying, John's aunt and uncle came to take his dad home. Before leaving, his aunt asked to meet my sons, but I refused again, telling her John didn't want them in his kids' lives. She called me heartless and cruel, that I had no right to deprive them of their grandkids, and that my sons would hate me for it. My sister, who was inside watching everything, later told me I was an asshole for depriving my children of their grandfather's love. She also asked me to consider my kids' future. I'm a single mother now, and John and I were living an average middle-class life, whereas his father's side of the family are quite rich. His dad had previously offered to pay for John's college, his house, our wedding, or even set up a fund for our boys. But John had refused everything. He had made it clear in every way that he wanted nothing from his family. It was fine while John was alive. Between him and I, we could have supported our boys. But alone now, I'm nervous. How do I proceed and act going forward? Update. My parents have been so supportive through it all. My mom has moved in to help babysit the boys while I go to work. Today, John's aunt called me again. She was crying and apologized for calling me cruel and heartless. She said she had raised John and was heartbroken to not be allowed to see him once. I said it's okay and explained I was just following John's wishes. She said his dad was devastated but has accepted that John was still mad at him. He has agreed to take a step back and sees that he cannot be expected to see his grandsons immediately and that it can take time, but that he wants a few pictures at the very least. I reminded her that I hadn't consented to letting them in even at a later date and I wouldn't send any pictures. That got her mad and she snapped, "How dare you at me," but calmed down soon and just said she'll call again later. She cut the call before I could say more. So that's where we are at now. About John's mom, her name was Anna. From what John told me, she was the sweetest woman ever and that she deeply loved his dad. One thing he always said was he remembers how quickly his mother forgave his dad for cheating and still wanted to work on the marriage. She had begged and cried when he told her he was leaving and that he wanted her gone by the time he came back. She had once even hit John after he told her that he hated his dad. John always cried remembering this moment, and he always told me if he ever treated me like that, I should give him no second chance. That he wants me to be stronger than his mom. This one memory is what I keep replaying in my head. I have to be stronger, and you all have given me a lot of confidence. Thank you so much. What did you think of these stories? Let me know your thoughts about them in the comments, and thanks for listening.